Hey, Jerry Fetta here, owner, founder, and CEO of Wealth Dynamics. Hey, I want to give a quick video today. I'm going to keep this around 5, maybe 10 minutes, and I want to talk about illustration design for the sacred account, right? And this is a video that's been requested of me numerous times. I've been traveling, moving, doing a lot of cool stuff with my company, expanding in my world. And so I've got now the time to sit down and actually show you what does a properly designed illustration look like, right? Now, I'm not just going to show you a properly designed illustration. I'm going to show you my illustration. Okay, this is a policy that I just opened, right? So this is going to be my actual numbers. This is not my biggest policy, but I had some extra money that's been going into savings. And I'm like, okay, I want to now put this into a policy. And I want to talk today also about the strategy on determining when you should do that, right? And there's something that, you can put together to make sure that you can keep track of your cash flows, what goes into a policy. But before you do any of that, you would want to know it's designed correctly, right? So here are some of the basics. I'm just going to do some whiteboarding really quickly to go over with you what it is we're looking for, right, when we're putting together a policy. So the first thing is, number one, it needs to be a whole life policy, a whole life insurance, not indexed universal life insurance, not term insurance, not variable universal life insurance. None of that. You only want whole life insurance, okay? Number two, it needs to be with a mutual company. Okay, what does a mutual company mean? A mutual company, this is very important. This is the thing that makes the rest of this work or not work, okay? A mutual company means that they treat their policyholders as shareholders. So by having a policy with a mutual company, you're a shareholder with that insurance company, and they're going to pay you a percentage of their profits every single year in the form of a dividend. That's how this works, okay? So it needs to be a mutual company. Number three, I want to see 100 plus year track record. Okay, they need to be at least 100 years old. Why? Because I want to see what did they do during the Great Depression. Okay, what did they do during the 1950s recession? What happened to them in the 80s when interest rates were super high? How did they do during the tech bubble? Right? More recently, like what about the mortgage crisis? What about COVID? What about the supply chain crisis? Like, I want to see a nice long track record, 100 years, and it needs to be 100 years of never losing and always paying. Right? So there needs to be a track record of never losing money and then always paying dividends. Right? Like if it's a mutual company and they're going to share dividends, that's awesome. But on paper, if they don't do it, I don't benefit from that. Right? So whole life insurance company, mutual company, 100-year-old track record of never losing money, always paying, never not paying, right? Now, this alone will not get you a sacred account. Okay, you could walk into a life insurance guy's office and ask for these things and he'd give it to you, and it still wouldn't be a sacred account. Okay, there's another component here, which is design. Okay, the design is so important. If you've got all of these, this is like your tools, and then finally you can use the tools to build the right thing, the right policy in the end. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you really quickly now on my screen is my policy. Right? Here's what it looks like. Now, this is going to be maybe a bit more of a starter for some people as you're looking at this, right? So I want to just show you what you're looking at because these can tend to be confusing, right? So a couple things we want to focus on. We want to focus on total annual outlay. We want to focus on total net cash value. And we can also focus on our death benefit here. Right? Now, there's two columns. There's what's called the guaranteed, and there is what's called a non-guaranteed, right? Now, when I was a brand new agent, I was 18, 19 years old, and I was looking at these. I was, again, at that time, I was Dave Ramsey, guys. You got to understand, I was selling buy term, invest the difference. And hope you don't mind if I enjoy my Celsius here as I do this video. So here I am looking at these, and I'm like, okay, well, I sell mutual funds at the time, and you can't guarantee things. So I'm never going to look at the non-guaranteed column. I'm only ever going to look at the guaranteed column, right? Big mistake. There's two columns here for a reason. Guaranteed means that you're just getting the guaranteed interest rate on your cash value, which is usually going to be around 2, maybe 3.5%. Okay, non-guaranteed means you're getting the interest plus you're getting the dividend. What did we just say is one of our specific things we're looking for? This policy must have paid a dividend at least 100 years in a row. Okay, now I can't guarantee this, but if every day for 100 years the sun comes up, I can't guarantee tomorrow is going to be the same, but we've got a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, right? Like we've got a pretty good understanding of what can occur here. Okay, so I'm going to look at the non-guaranteed because I want to look at what is it going to be with my dividends, and I'm not going to be working with companies that don't pay them. Okay, so my total annual outlay, this is the amount of money that I'm putting in my policy. Okay, I'm going to be putting in, just under $12,000 a year, about $1,000 per month. And so I want to look at this. I'm putting in about $1,000 a month. That's 11,869, right? My net cash value, this is the amount of money that we have in cash value, right, at the end of the first year. Okay, so I put in 11,869. I've got 8,505 immediately available. I've got some dividend and interest growth at the end of that first year. Then my death benefit in the first year is 331,323. Okay, now I want to show you how I used to analyze a policy versus how I do now, right? And anyone that does something like as a profession and never changes, like they're always the same, they don't ever have, oh, I realized this, or oh, I learned that. For me, that's a big red flag, right? I've learned things. And so when I first looked at this, my first thought was, okay, the very first thing is how much money do I have available in year one? My year one cash value needs to be as high as it can possibly be. I want to see 90, 95% of it available, da, 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 da. And so I'm looking at this, and this is really what I would have done. I would have taken out my calculator, right? I would have brought it over here, and I would have said, okay, so I put in 11,869 and 61 cents, right? That's what I've put in. Okay, well, let's find out what's my year one liquidity here. So I'm just going to take this here. I'm going to copy that number. And I'm going to look at, I've got 8,568 available, and I'm going to divide this by that. And I've got 72%. And I would have looked at that and said, man, I need to get that higher. I want 90% liquidity. I want 80% liquidity, right? And I do have policies like that because I've designed some of them that way, right? This one I didn't. Okay, and the reason why is when I put money into a policy, in this case, I'm putting $1,000 a month into it, about 72% of that money is going into where? My cash value, right? So if we look at this, we've got about 72% of my dollars are going into my cash value, right? Now, where's the rest of this going? The rest of this is purchasing my death benefit. That's 28%. That's the reciprocal, right? If we do the difference on the math there, okay? Now, if I'm thinking about this long term, I'm thinking about this as the banking concept. I'm not just trying to put my money in a fancy souped up savings account, because if I'm doing that, I can just go to, one of our tools we use for our investors is called Max My Interest. I can just go do a Max My Interest account and have 100% of my money available, and it's going to earn 3 or 4%. But I lose all the other benefits. I can't borrow. I'm not an owner in the company. I don't get to be the bank. I don't have a death benefit. I don't have tax-free growth. I don't have protection from creditors, from lawsuits, none of this stuff. It's just a high yield savings account where I can pull all my money out right away. Okay, so I have to think about this from the standpoint of being a banker and a shareholder. When I'm looking at policy design and liquidity, I'm thinking like a shareholder. I'm not thinking about it as the depositor. I'm not thinking about it as the banker. I'm not thinking about it as the borrower. I'm wearing the hat of the shareholder. Okay, this is called the banking quadrant. So as a shareholder, I know to be true that the less money that I put towards base death benefit here, my whole life, like my insurance, the less units of ownership I have in the insurance company, the less total dividends I'm going to get, meaning my bank will be less profitable in the long run. Okay, you got to stop thinking about this like a life insurance policy. This is your own banking system. where we happen to use life insurance because it's the best way to go about it. I can teach you how to do the same thing with gold and silver or with real estate. I like life insurance better because it's a better starting point. It's a lot safer. There's guarantees that I don't get elsewhere, and there's a lower barrier to entry. But I fully advocate using those other tools as well, because the concept is becoming your own banker by using assets that provide this strategy. Okay, so I need to think like a banker. If I'm going to open a bank, do I want a bank where I have a lot of money available in the first couple of years, and then from then on, the rest of the life of that bank gets less profitable because of that decision to have instant gratification? No, I want to say, okay, I'm willing to invest a couple of extra years, not have as much capital in my cash value to borrow against, knowing that in the long run, every year from there on forever, for the rest of my life, this will be a better bank. It will be more profitable. I will earn more money as a shareholder, right? So check this out. I've got 72% liquidity. If I were to drop this down, let's say I did do like 90-10, 90% my cash value and 10% towards my death benefit, what would happen? I would have 90% of my cash available. But once I get to like year 7, year 8, all the way down through the rest of the policy, my growth will not be as high. Okay. Now you might say, Jerry, why don't I go on the extreme then? I want zero cash value. I want all death benefit. Guys, that's just a standard whole life insurance policy now. You need to have a blend, right? The lowest I would go on this, on my cash value, is probably 60% here, 40% there, right? I would, at the very least, like that's the lowest I would go on my cash value, is 60% available, right? 50-50, not really interested in that. Below 50-50, not interested in that. 60-40 is good. 70-30 is good. 80-20 is good, right? Like, and I start getting into like the 80-20 range and the 90-10 range, meaning 80% of my cash, you know, and 20% in my death benefit, or 90 in cash, 10% towards death benefit. Here's the issue. When I start doing that, I start having to add what's called term insurance. Right? Why? Because the contribution is based on what's called the MEC line. That's insurance nerd speak for the amount of money that I can contribute. And so the more I want to contribute, the higher the death benefit I have to put. And I have to use term insurance to get really high liquidity and a really, really like, you know, 90-10 kind of policy. I've got to use term insurance. What does that mean? That means that I've inserted an annual cost into my policy that doesn't produce anything. Right? It's actually going to harm the performance. If you show me a 90-10 policy and I compare that with what I'm showing you here, long range, this one's going to outperform it because it doesn't have the term insurance and I own more shares. So I'm getting more dividend income with less cost. You see that? You've got to think long range. Okay. So now that I'm done with all of that, let's clear this out. Let's look at what I focus on today. Okay. What are the points that matter today? I'm looking at a few things. I'm looking at, okay, my net cash value, like where am I going to be borrowing, right? These are the things I'm focused on. This is really my biggest one, my net cash value. I want to accumulate and grow this as much as I possibly can, right? And I might do this through one policy or multiple, right? By the end of this year, my target is to have 7 policies in force that I'm funding. Okay, I've got 4 now. Right, so it's another 3 by the end of this year. And there's various companies and various designs based on what I'm going to use it for. Right? So here's the thing I'm looking at, the net cash value. I'm looking at the increase of the cash value as well. And so what I like to play is, it's called the magic ATM machine. Right? So if I put in $1, and here's the, like, people are like, well, what's the con? What's the gotcha? I'm going to put in $1. Right? And in the first year, I'm only going to have 72 cents available. That's the gotcha. Now, why is that? Because I'm investing in the bank. I'm buying death benefit. That death benefit is a share that produces a dividend, and it capitalizes the policy and it grows it so that my bank grows and pays me well as a shareholder. So just like any business, for the first several years, you're going to have to invest in the business. You can't expect to open a business and say, I put in 100 grand and in the first year I pulled 100 grand out. Think about that. Even being able to say I put in 100 grand and I pulled out 72,000, show me a business that does that. That's incredible. I put in 100,000 in the first year and pulled out 72. You won't see a business like that in most cases. You put in 100 and you're going to get nothing, probably for 5 years in a normal business. You're opening up your own banking business. So you're going to put in $1,000 and you're going to have to realize, okay, I'm taking 28% of that in this illustration that is being invested in the long-term growth and capitalization of my new banking business, right? Now, what I like to look at here is actually the year-over-year increases. Okay, this is not something that I initially used to know or think about. So we've got a year-over-year increase here. We've got 17,462, right? 17,462. This is in year 2 of the policy, minus the ending value of year 1, 8568, right? Minus 8568. Okay, so it increased by 8894. So I put in another 12,000 essentially. Year 2, I've got 8894, right? So that would mean I've got about 88% liquidity in the second year on my contributions, right? I put in another 12K or so. I've got 88 of that available, right? And so that's going to be showing I'm increasing my contribution, right? 8894 divided by 11,869 and 61 cents, right? So that bumps up to about 75% liquidity, right? That's in the second year. Okay, so that's the increase from here. Now we're looking in the third year, right? We're going to go third year. My year ending value is 26,494 minus the ending value in year 2, which is 17,332. That's an increase of 9162. Right. So again, if we divide that by what I put in, I've got 77%. So can you see every year it's climbing? This is what I want to see. I want to see every year it's climbing steadily. I'm not having to invest so much of my contribution into the base death benefit anymore. I'm only doing that for 3, 4, 5 years really on a heavier basis to really capitalize that bank. Right? Now, check this out. I want to show you what happens in year 6. Right? So I've got 56,178 available. Okay, so 56,178. And I'm just calculating this out here. I subtract out my ending value from year 5, which is 45,881. And I've got 10,297 available, right? So I've almost got 100% of the money that I put into this. You see, it's really getting up to that point where I put in $1 and I've got almost an entire dollar available, right? I'm capitalizing. Now I get down here, let's say to year 10, right? So I've got 101,904, right? This is the ending value of year 10. And I subtract out the ending value of the prior year, year 9, 89,757. I've got 12,147 available, right? So year 10, I put in 11,869, but my cash value increases by 12,147. Okay, this is what I call the magic ATM machine. Imagine an ATM. Like, let's just do the math on this, right? We have 12,147 divided by what we put in. That's $1.02, right? 1.02. So imagine you put in $1 into an ATM machine, and as soon as you put that dollar in, $1.02 shows up. Right? That's a magic ATM machine. Now we go down a bit further, right? Let's say year 15, for example. Okay, so you can see in my policy, the death benefit, or sorry, not the death benefit, the annual premium tapers off after year 10. Right? It goes down to 29.67. So I'm not putting as much. I did my funding, my capitalization. Now I'm trimming it down for efficiency. So this thing really just ticks off, right? So my cash value increases, right? So I've got 125 in year 15, 125 and $11 minus the prior year, which is 119,614. So my cash value that year increases by 53.97, right? But how much did I put in? I put in 29.67. So let's do the math on this. Divided by 29.67 and 41 cents. Okay, that's 1.81. For every dollar that I put in that year, I have $1.81 available. I want that to set in. Again, magic ATM machine. You put in $1 and almost 2 new ones show up. Right? Now think about it this way. Let's go down a bit further. So let's say I'm doing this with real estate investing, and in reality, I have other policies, right? So I would probably do this sooner. But with this one, if I did no other policies, I just fund this over and over and over. Year 20, I've got 156 grand into this. And I basically, sorry, not 156 grand into this. I've got 211 into this, right? And we've been looking at the PUA cash value. We should actually be looking at total net. So I've got 211 in cash value available, right? And so basically I've got 211. We look at the increase here, right? So I got 211,883 minus the prior year, which was 201,046. So I increased by 10,837. What did I put in? I put in 29.67 and 41 cents. So divide this by 29.67, 41 cents. That's $3.65. I put in $1 and I'm getting 4. Right? Think about that concept. Where else can you do this? Nowhere. This doesn't exist. This is why it's infinite banking. You're getting infinite more money as you put it in, right? So let's just talk practical application. Let's say that I pull a loan out in year 20. I pull out a loan against my entire cash value, right? So I take out the full 211,883. Okay, it's not there, right? In the sense of I can keep using it, and like I pull it out, right? Now, if I had 211,883 in a bank account and I pull it out, does my 211 keep growing? No, it does not, right? With this, it does. Okay, so I pull the 211 out. I go put that in real estate, right? And I know with 211,883, I can earn 12%. 211,883 at 12%. I'm going to earn 25,425 and 96 cents, right? Let's go ahead and copy this number. This is a special number, right? So that's what I'm earning on my real estate. Okay. Now, when I do that, my cash value will still increase to 223 the next year. So think about it this way. I pull out 211. I put this into real estate. My cash value still goes up to 3,193, which is an increase from 211,883 the prior year. So my cash value increases by $11,310, even though I took all the money out. If you have 200 grand in a bank account and you pull the 200 grand out, the next year, do you have 223? No, you've got nothing because you pulled the money out, right? This is what I love about this system. I get so excited about this, right? So I made 11,310 increase on my cash value, plus I did my real estate. I made 12% on my real estate. I made 25K there, right? So I made 36,735. Now you say, Jerry, you borrowed, right? So you took a loan out, right? Good. So what's my loan rate? So if I borrow and don't repay anything, it's probably 5%, right? If I borrow and repay and I take a tax deduction because that loan was used for an investment and that loan interest can be an investment expense, I can get a tax deduction. I'm probably only paying about 60% of the actual interest. So my loan rate effectively becomes about 3%, right? So 3% of what I borrowed. Let's go ahead and subtract those numbers out. I borrowed 211,883. 3% of that is $6,356. So I subtract out $6,356.49 to be exact. I still made 30 grand that year, right? I made 10 times my deposit. I put in 29.67. I had an increase in my cash value, and I had about 25K also in income from my real estate. And then I subtract out my loan interest, and I still netted 30,000 on a $3,000 deposit. That's 10 times the increase in a single year. Now, if you're doing the banking system, all the income you're getting from the real estate, you're repaying your cash value loans with. That reduces your balance, which reduces your total interest dollars. You're taking that tax deduction. Your policy still grows, right? Now, let's say, it's 51 years old at this point. Let's say that I pass away, right? Something crazy happens. I'm here in Kansas now, the real estate, I'm checking it out, and a tornado comes and it collapses on me, and boom, Jerry's gone, right? So what happens here? I have an outstanding loan of 211, right? I still own $211,000 worth of real estate. I've passed away. My family still has the real estate. I've got a death benefit of $733,869. Right? I'm going to subtract out the loan that I owe to the insurance company. I owe them $211,883. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that out. $211,883. So my family is going to get a death benefit of $521,986 and $211,000 worth of real estate. You see this? Like, I am always going to get the death benefit plus the assets I purchased. And this is a really bad scenario, because in this story I told, I died the year I did the real estate deal. Let's say I gave myself 5 years or 10 years before this imaginary tornado and building collapses on me. I've had, probably several more of these deals that I'm doing, right? So I've got lots of real estate. I've got lots of cash flow. I've repaid my policies. I've opened more policies, right? And this whole thing just continues to go. So it's not a question of, should you do a sacred account? It's a question of, if you put 211 in real estate, you're going to make 25K. If you put 211 in real estate and do the sacred account, you're going to make 30K, right? Scale that out. Like, think about it. If I start adding more zeros to that, if I put 2 million in real estate, I'm going to earn 250,000. If I put 2 million in real estate and do the sacred account, I'm going to earn 300,000. Let's add another zero, right? I do 20 million in real estate. I'm going to earn 2.5 million. I do 20 million in real estate with the sacred account. I'm going to earn 3 million. So it's not, should you do a sacred account or should you not? It's, what are you going to do with the extra $500,000 you're going to get just because you use the sacred account? Okay, now you're watching this and you're probably like, well, Jerry, this all seems really good. Let's do it again. So I want to remind you of your downside, though. You're committing these first number of years to capitalize your policy, right? Like, you're looking at, okay, I want to actually like do this and get the benefit. Okay, well then the first year you're going to have 72% available, then 75, then 77, and it's going to creep up. That's your part. You need to remember, you're investing and funding this thing, right? So I did this as a 70-30 policy because, again, my first ones I ever did, 90-10 all the way. I was like, I want as much money available and I have to have it and this and that. And I just wasn't mature in my thinking yet. And if you go read the book, Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash, he's the one that popularized this concept, because this used to just be for wealthy people and corporations. This became popular because of Nelson. And so if you read that, like, that's one of his main things. He's like, you need to capitalize the policy. This is not about the policy. This is about the concept. The concept works better when you capitalize the policy. Capitalize meaning infusing it with the cash that it needs, letting that lower first, second, third year liquidity happen for the benefit of the rest of your life, rather than the other way around. I want a really good 3 or 4 years, and then I want it to be worse every single year for the rest of my life. Okay, so I hope that this video helped you get some mass, I would say, on this, just seeing it visually. And I do want to point out the very first part of this video, I was just looking at the wrong columns here initially. I was looking at the PUA cash values. Guys, this is essentially like, if I'm putting money in and it's just like, guaranteed interest, right? Like, I'm not going to get the full picture. If I look at the total net where I'm including my dividends, this is the column really that, I want to look at every year, right? So I would see much better performance on the total net cash value, obviously, not just the PUA cash value. And that total net cash value, as you can see, like just in year 11, that's a $20,000 difference, right? So dividends are a good thing. Again, if we didn't do this, we did a 90-10, this total net cash value is not going to look as nice. It's not going to look as nice because we're not putting as much into the growth, the future income, you see? So I'm going to do more of these. Let me know your feedback in the comments. I can show you my 90-10 policy. I want to show you a policy for a child. I want to show you a policy for a high net worth individual. I want to show you a policy for a Canadian, right? Not in a weird way. Like we can service Canada. It's not like, ooh, a Canadian, what an interesting specimen. No, we can service people in Canada, right? So I want to show you, if you're Canadian, what this looks like for you as well. But that's it for me today. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you do like, share, and follow, and I'll see you next time.